I worked intake at a pawn shop for a little under a year, and there's one phone I still think about more than anything else that came through that place. If you've never worked somewhere like that, most of your day is repetition. People come in needing quick cash. You test electronics, log serial numbers, check IDs, make sure nothing obvious is stolen, and move on. Laptops, tablets, game consoles, power tools, jewelry. After a while, it all starts to feel interchangeable. Phones were the most annoying because people never brought them in properly reset. Half the job was making sure whatever personal data was left on them got wiped before resale. Usually, that meant old photos, cracked apps, dead batteries, and forgotten passcodes. The phone I'm talking about came in on a Wednesday night, about 40 minutes before close. The guy who sold it to us looked like he hadn't slept in days. He looked late 30s, with a ball cap and a gray sweatshirt on. He was shaky, in a way that made me think either he was on drugs or he was afraid, and I'm not even sure it matters which. The first odd thing was how rushed he seemed. He kept asking how fast I could process it, whether I needed anything else from him, whether we were almost done. I checked the device, ran the usual questions, got his ID, and made the offer. He took it immediately. The second odd thing was that he kept watching the phone while I processed it, as if he were worried I might open something before the sale went through. Not protective exactly, more like tense. Once the paperwork was done, he took the cash and left so fast he almost forgot his ID on the counter. I had to call after him. I didn't think much of it then because we get weird customers every day. The phone sat in the back until the end of my shift. Closing routine was slow that night, so I started clearing devices before I left. The phone turned on fine. No passcode. That wasn't unusual either. Some people remove it before selling. I opened the photo app first, expecting the usual camera roll, full of receipts, blurry dog pictures, screenshots, whatever. Instead, there was almost nothing there. A few random photos. No contact saved. No message thread I could see at a glance. It looked scrubbed. That should have made the wipe easy. Then I noticed there was one video file sitting in drafts inside a messaging app. Not sent, just saved there. I probably should have deleted it without watching it, but the title was just a date and time from 2 nights earlier, and because the rest of the phone was so empty, it stood out. I tapped it. It was filmed from inside a parked car at night. At first, it didn't even register as strange. It was a windshield view of a quiet residential street. Dashboard lights dim at the bottom of the frame, low engine hum, nothing moving. It looked like somebody had accidentally recorded while waiting for someone. Then a porch light came on across the street. The camera shifted slightly, zooming toward a small, one-story house with a narrow front walk and a blue recycling bin near the curb. A woman came out onto the porch. She looked around like she was checking for something, then went back inside. The person filming whispered very quietly, "There you are." That was enough to make me sit up straighter. The voice was male, calm, not excited, not drunk, just focused. The video kept going. Nothing happened for maybe another 30 seconds. Then the camera zoomed again toward a front window on the side of the house. The curtains weren't fully closed. You could see part of a living room lamp and a slice of a couch. The man filming said the woman's first name, not loudly, just like he was confirming it to himself. Then he said, "You shouldn't have blocked my number." That was when the whole thing changed for me. Up until then, I could still tell myself it was just some loser sitting outside his ex's house being pathetic, bad, but common enough. Then he reached forward with the phone, and in the lower corner of the frame, I saw what looked like a second phone sitting on the passenger seat with the screen lit up. There were multiple missed calls on it to the same contact. Her name. The video kept going another minute or so. No movement from the house. No confrontation. Just the camera holding on the window and the man breathing through his nose like he was trying to stay patient. Then headlights swept across the car from behind. The filming phone dropped slightly, and for a second, the rearview mirror caught part of his face. It was the guy from my counter. Same cap, same jaw, same tired eyes. He muttered, "Not tonight," and the video ended. I sat there staring at the screen longer than I want to admit. What got me wasn't that it was creepy. It was how close it felt to turning into something else. I watched it again. The second time, I noticed something I'd missed. In the lower right corner of the windshield, tucked up near the dash, was a visitor parking tag with the name of an apartment complex on it. Not the street where he was parked, it was somewhere else, probably where he actually lived. That felt important enough that I didn't want to be the only one who had seen it. I called my manager, who hated working after hours, and told him I needed him to come back. He was annoyed until I said, "I think a guy just sold us a phone with stalking evidence on it." He came back in 15 minutes, watched the video once, and stopped acting annoyed. We ended up calling the non-emergency police line from the shop. An officer came by, watched the clip, took the phone, took a copy of the ID from the sale record, and asked if the man had said anything unusual while he was there. I told him no, that wasn't really true. The unusual thing was how badly he wanted to get rid of the phone, but at the time, that had only felt strange, not important. The officer said they'd handle it. I never found out exactly what happened after that. Pawn shops don't get follow-up calls unless something comes back stolen. But about a week later, 2 detectives came in and asked me to confirm the same details again. One of them told me the woman in the video had already filed 2 reports about him before that phone ever hit our counter. That was the part I kept thinking about afterward. He hadn't sold us the phone because he was finished with her. He sold it because he realized there was still something on it he should have gotten rid of. If you're enjoying these stories, you can subscribe. There are more like this every week. I've been driving for rideshare for about 3 years, nights mostly. I work a day job and drive Thursday through Saturday evenings to cover the gap. Most rides are unremarkable. Airport runs, bar pickups, the occasional person who wants to talk too much, and the more frequent person who doesn't want to talk at all. You develop a read for people fast when you spend enough time doing it. You learn what normal looks like from the back seat, which is why I noticed when it wasn't. The pickup was at 1:41 a.m. on a Friday. A residential street in a quiet part of the city, not a bar district, not near any venues, just a street of houses. The app showed a 20-minute drive to the destination, which was a commercial address on the other side of town. Nothing unusual about any of it. He was already standing on the curb when I pulled up. He looked mid-40s, had plain clothes on, and a bag over one shoulder. He got in without saying anything, which wasn't unusual, and I confirmed the destination and pulled out. For the first 2 minutes, the ride was completely normal. He sat in the back right seat, looked at his phone, and said nothing. I kept my eyes on the road. Then I noticed he wasn't looking at his phone anymore. He was looking at me, in the rearview mirror, not glancing, looking. The kind of sustained attention that you feel before you see it. I shifted my mirror slightly and kept driving. I've had passengers stare into nothing for entire rides, so it happens. But this wasn't that. His eyes were tracking and following my movements in the mirror with a focus that was deliberate. I asked if the destination was correct, just to say something, just to see how he responded to being spoken to. He said yes, one word, with his eyes still on the mirror. I turned onto the main road and ran through the rational explanations in my head. Drunk? Possibly. But his movements getting into the car had been too controlled for that. High? Maybe. Mentally unwell? Having a bad night? But can any of those things produce a person sitting in a back seat and staring at the driver with full focus at 1 a.m.? I asked myself. Then he leaned forward. Not dramatically, just shifted his weight toward the front of the seat, closing the distance between us by maybe a foot. His elbows came to rest on his knees. The bag he'd been carrying was on the seat beside him. He said, "You drive this route a lot?" I said, "I drove all over the city." He said, "This specific route though, do you come through this part of town most nights?" I told him my routes varied. He nodded slowly. Then he said, "I've seen your car before, parked on Delmar Street. That's your street, isn't it?" I tried not to react to that, kept my eyes forward and my hands on the wheel, and said I didn't think that was right. He said, "You park in front of the gray house, third spot from the corner. You're usually back by 11 on weeknights. The app shows my name and my plate. It doesn't show where I live. It doesn't show what time I get home or where I park. There is no version of him knowing those details that doesn't require him having watched me outside this car before tonight." I kept driving. My hands were steady on the wheel because I needed them to be. I had about 2 miles left to his destination. Inside, I was running through my options the way you run through things when your brain understands the situation before you're ready to fully accept it. Pull over and tell him to get out, but we were on a stretch of road with no other cars and no open businesses, and I didn't know what getting out of the car would look like for me. Call 911, but I'd have to explain the situation out loud with him sitting 4 feet behind me. Keep driving and get to the destination and hope that was the end of it. I kept driving. About 30 seconds later, he said, "You have about a mile left. I want you to take the next right instead of continuing straight." I said the app had the straight route. He said he knew what the app had. I didn't take the right. I kept straight. He was quiet for a long moment after I refused the turn. Then, all of a sudden, his arm came over the front seat and his hand closed around the wheel. Not grabbing it violently, just placing his hand on it firmly. The way you place your hand on something you intend to control. I reacted without thinking. I jerked the wheel left, hard enough that the car lurched into the next lane. There were horns from somewhere behind us. I straightened up and hit the hazard lights and laid on the horn continuously through the next intersection. He pulled his hand back. I don't know what made me do the next thing. Instinct, maybe. I saw a fire station on the right lit up, bay doors partially open, and I pulled straight into the driveway and stopped the car and opened my door in one motion. I got out and walked toward the bay doors without looking back. Someone in a uniform appeared from inside. I said there was a man in my car who had just grabbed my steering wheel. I said it once, clearly. I heard my car door open behind me. By the time 2 firefighters had come out to the driveway, the man was gone. The back door was open. His bag was gone. The street was empty in both directions. I reported the ride through the app, flagged the account, gave the details, and described what happened. The app sent me an automated response about reviewing my feedback. I looked up the destination address when I got home. It was a commercial property, a self-storage facility that is closed at that hour with nothing operating. No reason at all for anyone to be dropped there at 2 a.m. I still drive. I haven't been able to fully stop because I need the income. But now I keep my phone mounted where I can hit the emergency call with one tap. What I think about is the hand on the wheel. How calm it was. How deliberate. Like something he'd thought about doing before he got in the car. Like the ride had always been going to end one way, and I just managed to make it end a different one. If you're new to Unlit Room and you enjoyed these stories, there are more like them on this channel. You can keep going from here.